Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about Scott Perry's cell phone. So, it's been shrouded in mystery and under wraps for many months since last summer when we know it was seized by the FBI. And we further know that they just took a quick picture of everything on it and returned it to him. And the question's been what happens to that evidence that was on there that they had a warrant to get. And it's now much clearer, but we don't know the end of the road yet. So he has litigated to say, you can't look at any of this stuff because I'm a legislator, and the speech or debate clause, that's the, clause du jour between him and Pence, says that basically you can't question legislators for things they do or say in session, the idea being to give wide berth for legislators to debate the right things to do, maybe even defame people to figure out what's best for the country as a whole and the like. So they have protection for what the Supreme Court has said are legislative acts. We know that as a general standard. We don't exactly know what that means. They haven't had much occasion, the courts, to really kind of elaborate on what's a legislative act and what isn't. Now, Perry has advanced a very, it seems to me, far-fetched and dubious and even brazen interpretation. Remember who Perry is. He is thick as thieves, literally, in the plot to stage a coup in the Department of Justice as a, one very plausible way to get the election overturned. The idea was going to be that, as Trump put it, just write a letter under the aegis of the Department of Justice saying, we think there may be problems. We see possible fraud, just a little bit, of an ominous letter like that, and said, Trump, leave it to the Republican congressman and me to take care of it. So they were going to try to leverage those suggestions that something was amiss. We don't even know what, to basically get the Georgia legislature to change direction, put in electors for Trump, really throw the whole thing. And we start with Georgia, but there were, 4 or 5 other states. Could have thrown the whole thing into bedlam. There was just one little problem, which is the Department of Justice had not concluded there was anything untoward in Georgia, just the opposite. It had concluded everything was fine in Georgia. And so the effort to do this and that's all started with the DOJ was completely fraudulent. And Scott Perry, he's one of 6 members of Congress who seem to be sort of involved in different planning and conspiracies, but he's got a different role because in this one crime or potential crime, he's in the instigating force. He is the one who comes up with this flunky in the Department of Justice, a mid-level, mid-level, that way, I should talk because I was mid-level in that respect, but really nowhere near the Attorney General of the United States. He finds this guy, this flunky, who's willing to do this bidding, and it's a total Faustian bargain for him, Jeff Clark. He would get to become the Attorney General of the United States. That's a nice little resume enhancer at the end of an administration. So Scott Perry actually makes the match between Jeff Clark and Donald Trump. He walks him into the Oval Office. Here's your man. And Trump and Perry have all kinds of conversations, which itself is completely improper. I can tell you from my time in the DOJ, just chatting with the President of the United States without the Attorney General and others knowing is treacherous. But they hatched this whole plan. Faustian is really the right word for it, because Clark is thinking, I'm going to be Attorney General, And he then, armed with the power, so he thinks of Trump behind him, goes to the department and tells the acting Attorney General Jeff Rosen and Deputy Richard Donahue, now we just have to send this letter to Georgia. And by the way, if you do it, maybe you'll get to keep your jobs, or maybe I'll get to be the Attorney General. There's a crazy time where there's a log sheet from Clark to Trump that actually lists him as acting Attorney General. So Trump has gone pretty far, at least in his mind, in that direction. And this is what causes the entire leadership of the Department of Justice to storm over there to the White House, and with Pat Cipollone, on their side, saying, you cannot do this. And if you do, Mr. President, everybody is resigning. And only then did he back down. All right. So Scott Perry is absolutely up to his eyebrows in this stuff. And there are some 2,200 messages that were seized off his phone. Okay, this brings us to what's been going on. So it's been all under wraps because it's in the grand jury, but he brings a motion in the district court, and the chief judge for the district court, Beryl Howell, we now know, issued a 45-page opinion absolutely shellacking him, and issued it at the end of December. And it was released, taken out from under seal Friday evening. A lot of people might have missed it. But basically, it goes through why you need a speech or debate clause, basically, for the reasons I said up front, and then really just clobbers him, saying all these things he's trying to shield. That's not what you have it for. I mean, we're talking about, imagine where he's colluding with Trump, or talking with Clark himself, or there's, all kinds of a beehive of activity that, I'm sorry, it's a criminal conspiracy that he is now arguing this was just his effort to, get ready for it, do some legislative fact-finding about what had gone on in Georgia. So the court, Beryl Howell, rejected it, and really staunchly. There's some good language that basically says, he had no formal role or function as part of the United States Congress. It just was, his own information gathering, and not anything that a legislator does counts here. So it doesn't protect, wrote the judge, extra legislative communications that are only tangential to matters coming before the Congress. And she finds, there's 100 or so of the 2,200 that arguably you could shield, and she lets it be shielded. But she says, as to the rest, it's outrageous. Basically, if it were accepted, anything a member of Congress did, going to the barbershop and plotting the Valentine's Day massacre would be covered by the speech or debate clause, and it isn't. Okay, so a very solid slapdown of Perry, and you might think that's the end of it. But last week now, the Court of Appeals heard the appeal from this opinion that we now found on Friday. And it's a little bit complicated because it's a 3-person panel, and 2 of them, they are the Trump appointees, I just mentioned that in passing, seemed to think maybe the district court had gone too far. Not in a way that makes it look like Perry is going to win or shield most of these communications, but they were saying to the attorney for the DOJ that was defending that decision, really, anytime there's an informal communication with a third party, which is the line she basically draws, that can't be covered by speech or debate. And they seemed worried that that was too broad a standard, that maybe you could have informal communications with third parties that you would count as part of speech or debate. That's a reasonable enough kind of question for a Court of Appeals to be thinking about, but it's a little bit practically worrisome here, because here's what it portends potentially. They're taking a little while to really sort of think through how they want to write it. Maybe the third judge, who wasn't interested and just thinks as Beryl Howell did, the judge below, that he has to turn over almost everything, writes a dissent. We wait for that. The upshot is a remand, because the Court of Appeals will say, she said this standard, really, we think that was a little too grudging. There should be a little bit more protection. So decided under that, it goes back down. And, what is clear is all kinds of communications that at the end of the day get no speech or debate protection. Perry could potentially get many more months of delay out of this. So that's where things currently stand. What's in the Court of Appeals, and what are they going to do with it, and are they going to hurry up or not? So on the one hand, Perry has been really shot down, as he should be, and it just can't be that most of what he wants to protect will be protected. But justice delayed again, and it may take a while to really clarify just what he has to turn over, and that lets him ride for a time. So another one in which we'll be back to see how this plays out in the Court of Appeals. Hey, if you're liking these YouTube discussions that we've been just starting to do, please let us know, and subscribe if the spirit moves you. But lots more coming down the pike on this and other things. And when it does, I'll be there to give you more discussion and more of my 2 cents via these YouTube videos. Until then, talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.